Hi guys, I'm going to talk to you today about how to write a cause-effect paper. This comes from chapter 13 in the textbook, and sometimes we also call this paper a causal analysis paper. So if you hear a teacher call it that, just know they're using the fancy term for cause-effect, and that's really what they're asking you to do. Because what it is it's looking at the causes and analyzing them. So it makes sense to call it either one of those. The point of this kind of paper is to show that you understand how to make connections between different events. Okay, so in your thinking, are you able to see connections between events that happen? A lot of times we look at this as either causes or effects of a particular event or a certain stimulus in a person's life. So either of those relate to this type of paper. You see this a lot in academics when we talk about things like what were the causes of the Civil War, or what has caused the genocide in Rwanda, or what are the effects on Russia's occupation of Ukraine. And so we look at this a lot in social political aspects. We look at this in historical context. We also look at this in literature when we look at things like, what caused Elizabeth Bennet to fall in love with Darcy, if you've ever read Pride and Prejudice. Or what were the effects of the trial on Scout as a young woman in To Kill a Mockingbird? And so what it's asking you, the purpose of this kind of question is to see that you can look backwards or you can look forwards, and you can see that life is a series of chain reactions, right? One thing leads to the next thing that leads to the next thing. So that's the idea of cause effect. So it's a pretty common writing prompt. And so you'll see usually the words causes or effects in the prompt, so you'll know that that's the type of writing you're being asked to do. Okay, so here's some things to think about when you're getting ready to write this paper. First of all, who's your audience? Be very, very careful to avoid jargon. So if you're going to use a particular event that you're really familiar with, be really careful that you don't give a lot of jargon that your audience doesn't understand. Okay, the big questions of this paper are why something happens, or what if. What if this happens, then what would happen next? Okay, so you're answering one of those two questions. You also need to make sure that when you're writing cause effect, you have some kind of so what. So because we've looked at these causes or we see these effects, so what? What does that teach us about humanity? What does that teach us about, our human nature, the human condition? Maybe these are things that we should learn from so we don't repeat them. So don't forget a so what, and your so what is not these are the causes or these are the effects. That's not a so what. Because these are the causes or effects, what are we supposed to learn? So make sure that you have that so what in that paper, because that's what makes a deep paper. For this particular paper, I'm wanting you to choose either causes or effects. I don't want you to do both, one or the other. And the reason is I want you to go really deep into these are the causes or these are the effects. So I don't want you to try to cover both. Okay? You'll also have to decide what is your purpose for this paper. Are you writing to persuade us that this was the major cause of your event, or these are the major causes, or are you just informing us? That changes the tone of your paper, so consider that before you start writing. One big thing I want to make sure we talk about is affect versus effect, all right? Because you'll probably use these words a lot. So here's what you need to know, and here's how you can remember it. I remember that anytime I see cause and effect, so this word up here, it's always effect. Well, these are nouns because we call them the cause and effect, okay? So since I know these are nouns, I know this effect is a noun. However, this affect is a verb. So there's the difference. Effect is a noun, affect is a verb. All right, so be careful when you're using those words. Make sure that you're using them correctly. So the thesis for this particular paper should make it clear whether you're showing cause or effect, what you're showing the cause or effect of, and what is your so what. So make sure you take a look at page 539 that's in the chapter, because they have some discussion of what a good thesis statement should have. All right, organization for this one. There are a couple of different ways you can organize this. If you're going to talk about causes, for instance, maybe you give them chronologically. So give us causes in the order that they would happen. Or you could do it emphatically. So the least important cause to the most likely or most important cause, that would be okay as well. But just remember that you need to have some kind of very clear organization and strong transitions so we understand as we're moving from one cause or one effect to the other that they are related to each other. So be considerate and be thinking about how am I going to use transitions for those. All right. A couple of other things to think about while you're working on this paper. There are differences. There's a difference between immediate and remote causes. Okay, so please take a look at page 540. I'm not going to go into a long spiel on that here. I know you can read. So you need to consider when you're choosing the particular causes that you're going to discuss, I want you to really focus more on immediate causes. So be thinking about that and what you're choosing, because I really want you to do more. And for some reason this is not working very well, but I really want you to spend more time with immediate causes and not as much time on the remote causes. Also, there is a difference between causation and correlation. Now, this is a discussion we have a lot more, we have a lot deeper discussion of in English 102, but there is a difference between being a causation and just being a correlation. And so please make sure that you're talking about causation and not correlation. All right, and so that's on page 543. Again, I'm not going to go into a long spiel because I know you can read. So just be careful about the causes or effects that you choose. They should be immediate and they should actually be causes. Also, please be very, very careful that you do not commit post hoc ergo propter hoc. Again, there's a discussion of that on page 543. All right. There are some common grammar mistakes that happen with this paper. And so the book does a really good job talking about some of those. So take a look at that on page 547. In your text, there's a little box in there that talks to you about some of the common grammar errors that happen with this paper. So be sure to take a look at those. I'm not going to go into a long discussion about that here. All right, so here's some things, or here's some ideas to consider, some topic ideas for you. Maybe this sparks something for you to help you get started. So, explain the effect of one thing you or your family has owned, or something that you have added to your family that has changed your family in some way. So maybe that's a new car or a new house or a new pet or a new sibling, or maybe grandma and grandpa came to live with you. So the effect of some change on your family life, something that came into your family that has changed your family. And then your so what there could be, what does that say about your family that your behavior has changed? All right, the second option, think about yourself, a sibling, a friend. And the question here is really, what are the causes or effects of someone's appearance? Okay, what influences us and the way we look and the way we act? And, so either what causes us to look and act the way we do, or someone else, or what are the effects of that? Okay, so you can talk about physical aspects, so hairstyle, clothing, things of that nature, or you can even talk about behavior, so a person's mannerisms or language or actions. So what causes a person to look or act that way, or what are the effects of that? And then your so what does that say about that person, or what does that say about us, that their physical appearance or behavior influences us. All right, the third one's a pretty obvious one. Why is it people do something they shouldn't do? Why is it, specifically this one I'm asking, why is it people engage in dangerous behaviors when they know they shouldn't? So what are the causes of, or what are the effects of that kind of decision? All right. Number 4 is one I'm particularly interested in, and I really would love to hear your opinions about. Why do you think a large number of either high school or college students drop out of school? So, what are the causes of that? What are the effects of that? What does that say about our society or about our kids? And eventually, I'd love to hear, what do you think we can do about it? Is there an easy solution to some of those problems? All right, the next one. What are some changes that need to be made to improve our high school or college education system? So, the way this would work is I would like you to propose a change to our education system. Then, what would the effects of that change be? Or you could look at, what were the causes of the problem you're trying to solve? Okay, so either one of those. This kind of goes into something I'm really interested in, and probably affects you too as college students. So, and then of course the very last one I have listed here, this is the classic cause effect, the causes or effects of a particular historical event. Now, please be careful. I'm only looking for 2 to 3 pages here, so make sure that you're not choosing some giant historical event. Please do not give me the causes or effects of World War II. You're not going to cover that in 2 to 3 pages. You need to pick a historical event that is very specific. September 11th, the Battle of Gettysburg, and even you could go smaller than that, Pickett's Charge, something of that nature. The sinking of the Titanic, something like that. So be sure you're not picking some huge historical event. Please don't tell me all the causes of the Great Depression. You don't have time to talk about that in 2 to 3 pages. All right? So if you're interested in history, that's a great one to talk about. If you're interested more in social and cultural issues, you have some options there. If you're interested in psychology, this is a great place to talk about some of those things as well. Okay, there is a fantastic example on page 569. It talks about why are college textbooks so expensive. So it is. I will tell you up front though, it is looking at some causes and effects. That's not what I'm asking you to do here. I just want one or the other. But I think it's a really interesting read, and it has great organization and a really good thesis. So I think that's a good sample paper for you to take a look at. So I highly suggest that you take a look at that. All right. So the handout also includes then this brainstorming section where you can take a look at causes and effects. So I'm going to do some brainstorming over on a blank sheet of paper just to show you what this should look like. Okay, so once you have chosen your topic, it will go in here. So let's say I want to talk about what are some of the causes. What causes a person to start running? Okay, maybe that's what I'm going to talk about. All right, if that's the case, causes will look like this. So my brainstorming should look like this, because this is all different things or different events that lead to someone starting a running journey. Okay, so that's what that would look like. So anytime I'm doing causes, it's what comes before the particular event that I'm discussing. I've known people who use it because it helps them battle depression. All right. Weight loss, right? This is one that's also true. Stress. So maybe then those are the 3 causes that I discuss in this particular paper. However, on the other hand, if I want to do the effects on a person's life after they start running, it would look like this, because effects happen afterwards. Right, so then your brainstorming looks more like this. And so, I can talk over here about weight loss, better sleep, okay, clearer thinking, friendship. Now most of my friends are runners, okay. Even I have really awesome t-shirts now, so that's a great effect of running, is I have a really great running wardrobe now. So hopefully you can see how these are somewhat different. So causes will look more like this in my brainstorming, whereas effects will look more like this one over here. Okay? If you have any questions about this paper, feel free to give me a holler and let me know. Otherwise, happy writing.